Donald Trump seemingly desperate to make himself less popular, insisting to audiences, you should really love data centers. You really should. And this interview went so wrong that even the interviewer, Fox News host Trace Gallagher, realized Trump's brain seems to be glitching out here. This strategy did not work in times past, and I don't think it's going to work this time. Here is Donald Trump saying oil will go down to $2.50 a gallon, and that it used to be $1.85. Now, you always have to account for, Trump's incoherent again. Of course, he's talking about gas, not oil. Oil is more like $70 a barrel. When we talk $2.50 a gallon, you're talking about gas. Trump's confused, but let's listen to what he says anyway. Let's charitably interpret it and then fact check it.
And as you know, we control the strait totally through the blockade. But if we have no friction, then oil will go down to, I think it'll go down to $2.50 a gallon.
$2.50 a gallon for oil. That's, wow, what a price.
$2.50. You know, it was down to $1.85 before I had to make this little journey to the Islamic Republic of Iran. I had to make it. We had the best numbers that anybody's ever seen. But now you take a look, with that going on, you just hit to get today, I think it's number 79 days. We hit an all-time stock market high.
Yeah. Let's ignore for a second that Trump is confused between gas and oil. It's just common. He's so confused at this point in time. You've always got to be going, here's what he said, here's what he meant. The guy, his brain's not working right. His argument was, before I did this with Iran, gas was $1.85 a gallon. It wasn't. As you can see, right before Donald Trump did this big spike, that you see the price go up here in this chart, gas was about $2.85 a gallon, not $1.85. Now, you can argue we had to go to Iran or we didn't. You can predict gas will come down or gas will go. You could do whatever you want. But you've got to start with the facts, and the facts are gas was already $2.85, not $1.85. And therefore, it is completely unrealistic to think that gas is going to go down to that level again. Donald Trump then picking an incredibly unpopular issue. Americans hate data centers. Listen, data centers are coming. Data centers are here. The question is where, which stakeholders have a say in saying yes or no to them. But these data centers are coming. There's no doubt. But most Americans don't like them, Republicans and Democrats. The Republicans and Democrats are uniting around, we don't like data centers in our communities for the most part. And if you like them, you can get one, but most Americans don't. And Trump goes, they're making a mistake. It's great. Data centers are great.
Nothing. I think any community that turns down AI is making a big mistake, because your taxes are going to go way down. If you own a house, it's going to be more valuable. It's a tremendous thing. And I see it, it's almost like there's a campaign against, data centers. But data centers, if you look at the stats, everything's good around them. Now, the thing they should look at is blue states and blue cities run by Democrats, because that's really the threat to the country.
Listen, data centers don't bring just great stuff to communities. There's the noise issue. There's the water use. There's the water pollution. There's the fact that they create relatively few jobs for their physical footprint. There's a whole bunch of different issues. Now, we're not much like arguing we shouldn't have cars because the horse buggy drivers will lose their jobs. That was never going to work at the beginning of the 20th century. We know that. Data centers are a thing, but we need to be realistic and honest and thoughtful about where and when we place them. And Trump just going, data centers are awesome. They make everything great. Nobody's believing that stuff. And hopefully nobody is believing this other lie from Trump either, that we had prisons from other countries emptied out into the United States. Trump insists that it happened.
But we paid for the cost of that war many, many times over. Where have you heard that? But everybody was against it. And then when I won, they all think it was great. But nobody talks about it anymore, so I have to talk about it. Nobody talks about the fact that we have the safest border in history. And I probably got elected partially, at least in big part, because of the fact that the border was so bad. 25 million people. People say 14, it's only 19, or it's only 22, it's 25 million people. It's probably more than that. They came pouring into totally unchecked and unvetted, pouring into our country. And many of these people are not the people you want in our country. We have drug lords, we have people from many people. millions of people from prisons, 11,000, you've heard me say it, 888 murderers, most of whom, or many of whom, committed more than one murder. We're getting them all out. We've got so many of them out. We're doing such a good job. But with the hardest thing we inherited the worst inflation in the history of our country. But
all right, anyway, this is all lies. Trump did not inherit the worst inflation in the history of our country. In fact, inflation is up since Donald Trump took over. It was down to 2.9% when Joe Biden left. But there continues to be no evidence that prisons are being emptied out into the United States. There's just no evidence. How do you prove something didn't happen? Well, we should put the burden of proof on the person making the claim. And of course, there has been no such proof. In a weird moment, Donald Trump talking about how clean he is. He's clean, but these communists are dirty. An insult as old as communism itself.
You know, one thing I said the other day for the first time ever, never thought of it, but you go to these cities that are taken over by the socialists and the communists, they're always filthy dirty. They're disgusting. They're always dirty. And, you know, I'm a clean person, and people I know are clean.
Clean.
They like that, and you are. I know you very well. You're very clean. But they're, aside from crime, aside from all of the other problems, no jobs, no anything, no money, they're always filthy, disgusting, dirty.
These are really old insults. You know, as many of you know, I'm not a communist, but that doesn't mean we say communists are filthy and dirty. Also, it doesn't mean you call non-communists communists. This is just red meat. Trump's out of ideas and everything is just crashing down around him. So this is what he's come up with. And in fact, an incredible moment was when Trace Gallagher asks Trump, what's your big message on the economy? Now, Trump could have said, well, my message is we're making progress, but we've got a long way to go. Let's keep Republican control for another 2 years so we can finish the job. It would be a lie. We're going the wrong direction, but it would be more of an Obama type message in 2012 where Obama said, listen, we've done a lot to get out of the Great Recession, but we have more work to do still. Trump's message is basically everything's awesome. And in fact, the tariffs have been great, which people mostly understand have not been great.
One, you're here to talk about the economy.
Right.
What's your big message? You want to leave one takeaway with this crowd. What is it?
So tariffs have been incredible. We've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars. Supreme Court gave us a little shot, but we're allowed to do it in a different manner. They said that. But we are anyway. I mean, regardless, we have the law.
This is pathetic. We have not taken in any tariff money from other countries. The tariffs are paid here in the United States. The importing American company pays the tariff, and then they pass about 85% of the cost along to the consumer. That's what it's been. Now, as I've asked before, does Trump not realize that's how tariffs work? Or does he realize it, but he thinks his followers are too stupid to know the difference? I don't know. And then Trump insisting everything is cheaper. This is an A-plus economy. This is very risky politically because Americans do not believe it.
Of Iran, I had to make it. We had the best numbers that anybody's ever seen. But now you take a look with that going on. You just hit to get today. I think it's number 79 days. We hit an all-time stock market high.
Yep.
401ks are the highest they've ever been by double and triple.
Yep.
And then I read where we're doing badly on the economy.
By the way, 401ks have not doubled nor tripled under Trump.
By the way, job numbers. We have more people working in the United States today than ever in history. We're doing an unbelievable job. Costs are coming way down. I inherited, they talk about costs. I inherited very, very high costs. And they're all coming down now. The food, the groceries.
Inflation has been more than zero, meaning prices are going up. Even if you get inflation down to 1%, that still means prices are going up 1% a year. Does Trump not get it? I genuinely don't know.
It's all coming down. We've done a great job. I think we should be given an A+ on the economy, but I think that's coming. People are starting to talk about it.
Run that on a loop. This is an A+ economy, says Donald Trump. Truly delusional. On Venezuela, Trump says, we're taking out hundreds of billions of dollars there. I looked up Venezuela's GDP. It's a little over 100 billion. How are you getting hundreds of billions out of a country whose entire GDP is only about 100 billion?
Oh, people were so opposed to what I did in Venezuela. It lasted one day. And now look, we're making hundreds of billions of dollars. And so are they. They're getting, Venezuela's like a different place. but we're taking out hundreds of billions of dollars. They're taking out hundreds of billions of dollars. It's a different place. It's actually become, I mean, they had the tragedy the other day with the problem, as you know, but that was a terrible problem. The earthquake, I guess you'd call it. It was.
It's a word when the ground shakes and it rattles, and the thing where that happens. This is statistically impossible. Hundreds of billions out of a country whose GDP is 110 billion. And finally, Donald Trump, as is often the case, struggling to find words, talking about TiVo and DVR. This is a tough one to watch.
Our country is rocking and rolling. We've never been this successful. They don't want to talk about it, but they're having no choice. And again, whether it's Laura or Sean or Jesse or you have such a good.
You're the best, Tracy.
I watch you all the time.
Thank you, sir.
Sometimes they tape it and watch it. It's okay. You know, it's I don't know what they call it today. They used to call it TiVo. Maybe they still do.
Yeah.
But I love TiVo or its equivalent.
DVR.
But you do a great job.
Thank you,
Really
sir.
good.
I love TiVo. It's so nasty. Now, for some of our younger viewers, TiVo was a device and service with which you could record programs off your TV. I think when I used to work at Circuit City like 25 years ago or something like that. In any case, Donald Trump struggling for words, as is often the case. That was supposed to be an easy interview, and it just goes wrong every single damn time. Summer is better when good food doesn't require planning, and that is why our sponsor, Wild Grain, delivers sourdough breads, seasonal pastries, and French butter from small independent bakeries straight to your door. Everything bakes from frozen in 25 minutes or less. I love Wild Grain's slow-churned French butter on sourdough. Rich, lightly salty. It is a great snack. Easy upgrade for breakfasts or casual summer dinners with friends. Wild Grain is using simple, recognizable ingredients. They've got a slow fermentation process. You can customize your box with classic, gluten-free, vegan, and protein options. So if you're looking for an easy way to enjoy bakery-quality bread at home, give Wild Grain a try. Over 40,000 five-star reviews, named USA Today's best food subscription box 3 years in a row, and their croissants are still winning awards. Go to wildgrain.com/Pakman to get $30 off your first box plus free croissants for life. The link is in the description.